And so the producibility. Uh, so at the time of the development of the Merkava MK2, it was limited by the country's material engineering industry that the Merkava at that time could not use composite armor. So in order to maintain the protection, um, comparing with other tanks of the same period that used the composite armor, the Israel Merkava tank could only stack the homogeneous steel armor around the vehicle, and that making the entire tank body weight over 60 tons. And the weight of the armor accounted for 70% of the entire weight. And the final version of the Merkava MK2 weighted 63 tons. And the integration and the evaluation of the Merkava tank. So overall, the Merkava tank may not be the best tank in the world, but nor may it be the best comprehensive tank, nor the most advanced or the most expensive one. But the excellent protection and the survivability is indeed the most suitable modern middle tank for the Israel army. And in the battle combat, it has a fairly good performance in a series of battle combat. So, for example, in the 2006 Israel-Lebanon conflict, 50 Merkavas was hit by a large number of IEDs and a total of 1,000 anti-tank missiles, but eight of those tanks still operational at that time, and only 24 were withdrawn from the battlefield because of the armor penetration suffered from those attacks, and the vast majority were later repaired. And of those, only of those get destroyed. Of those get hit, only 2 of Merkava force were permanently lost to the IED and the anti-tank missile. And impressively, one of the Merkava 4 drive right into an IED, but with the protection of the V-bottom tank body, only 1 tank crew member was killed, and the remaining 6 member and infantry inside the tank, they all saved from death. Yeah. And so the excellent performance has led to the Merkava tank always have a position in the world's top 10 tanks list. And here is a detailed details about the Merkava from Merkava 1 to Merkava 4. And so every generation of it has a great emphasis on the defensiveness. So the post-development stage, so the production part. The main application of Merkava tank is still located in the Mid-East area, and the user also mainly limited to the Israel's own army, and limited by the Israel's industry capacity. The annual production of Merkava tank was not high. The annual production of the Merkava MK1 at that time was only 50 to 70 units a year. And during the wartime, the production would be even lower because they need to repair the battle damage. And in the 1982 Lebanon War, so there is only 200 to 300 Merkava tanks could be used. And until 1988, there is still only about 500 tanks to be used. Thus, it could be seen that the high survivability design is quite necessary for the low output. And as from now, the production of Merkava it has four kind of Merkava. So start from the Merkava MK1, it goes to MK2, MK3, and the latest one is the MK4. And beside the main battle tank, it also have some side production like the Merkava APC, like used to carry infantry during the war zone, and also the Merkava ARV and the Merkava ARV is an advanced armored recovery vehicle, like an engineering tank, used to rescue, fix, and the maintenance of the more main battle tank. And the operation and the support. So the Merkava has performed very well during the combat. The front-mounted engine design made the tank's protection very reliable, and the survival rate of the crew after a hit could even once reached 95% at a point. And the upgraded armor and upgrades of the tank that followed the time also made the Merkava's protection performance reliable all the time. So as a tank that has been tested in many wars, its performance in the battlefield is excellent. It has greatly reduced casualties for the Israel army, and also it also benefits from a logistical balance that has been taken into account during its design. So comparing to the expensive Abrams and the sophisticated Leopard 2 tank, it requires less logistical support. And there is also some difficulties Israel experienced in the beginning of the Merkava development. So at the beginning, so they first need to consider whether Israel has the ability to obtain the high level of industry and technology expertise like needed to be successful complete the Merkava project. And then second, they need to consider whether Israel can complete the Merkava project at a reasonable price and without harming Israel's local economy. And besides that, they also faced some political challenge. So at the beginning, Britain once committed them some technical support to help them. But after the Arab country expressed their protest to Britain, the UK withdrew the technical support. And according to one of the Israel generals said, 3 years of development, design, and planning work wasted. We were back in square one and lost irretrievable time. And during the development, they also faced a military challenge. Due to the threat of the war Israel facing, the research and the development time of the Merkava project is kind of short. And in terms of the technology, in terms of the technical challenge, the Israel had no experience in developing time independently before that. Before the Merkava tank born, Israel has no experience in building tanks on its own. And in addition to that, they also lack experience of independent production of tank scan. So the first generation of Merkava could only use the British tank main gun. And they also lack of the advanced material factories. And so at that time, they cannot use the composite armor to build the tank. So they could only stack the homogeneous steel armor. And so in the beginning, the weak level of the the national defense industry of Israel in the early years of Israel could only meet the needs of repairing or rebuild the import tank. the production of the tank is limited by the weak industrial production capacity of the country. And also some future challenge of this Merkava tank. The engine, although so with the development of technology, like various new type of anti-tank weapon have emerged, including the newest targeting the weak top armor of the tanks with various top attack type anti-tank weapons. So although the protection performance of the Merkava tank is quite outstanding now, although the engineering design of it is pretty good for now, but it's foreseeable that it would constantly facing more challenges in the future, and that would be a future challenge for the Merkava. Thanks for watching.